Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ryan Garcia's expressed desire to have a second fight with Gervonta Davis. He took to his social media and said, "To be real, there hasn't been a fight like my fight with Gervonta. Gervonta, we brought out OG Super Fight back for one night. I want to do another one like that." The only fight I think has that potential is the Haney rematch, but it's hard to have that type of super fight energy. He's not wrong, you know. For some people, that fight between Ryan and Gervonta had the big fight feel. It didn't have that feel for me because I never thought much of Ryan Garcia's boxing, and I picked him to lose. I picked him to get knocked out, and he got knocked out. It didn't quite do it for me, but commercially, it was a big success. I believe that it was the last pay-per-view in America to do over 1 million buys. There have been other pay-per-views, many of them since then. None came close to doing those numbers. And I don't think that if you did it again, you would do those numbers again. This is how out of touch the boxers often are, thinking they can go back to the well and get the same money, irrespective of where they are and how they're performing. Ryan Garcia's mystique has dissipated as of late. His buzz. You got popped for pads and then you lost the Rolly. Ryan has made 2 pay-per-view appearances since the Gervonta Davis fight. Gervonta has as well, neither of which did all that well at the box office. If you tried to refurbish the fight between them, if you could even do that, it's not doing 1 million. And that's if you could even do that. There are several hindrances, obstacles. For starters, there's a lot of weight between Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia currently. Gervonta last fought in the lightweight division, where currently Ryan is a welterweight. To make the fight between them, I think that Ryan would have to move down, maybe to 140, to meet Gervonta Davis in the middle, and then it would be the same situation all over again, where Ryan is compromised, he's weight drained, and easier to knock out. Why would anybody want to see that again? Is anybody but Ryan asking for that rematch, and why does he want it? Revenge, maybe? Somehow I don't think it's for revenge, because you don't see Ryan asking for a Rolly Romero rematch, and he just beat Ryan. But you don't see Ryan beating the drum for that second fight. So if he wants a second fight with Gervonta, I think it's for some other reason. It's the money. It's the money, that's why. Ryan thinks if he runs it back with Gervonta, it's bigger than everything else, it'll get him bigger money. It's the money. Second to that would have to be the Devin Haney fight because of all the controversy, because of all the backstory, because now Devin is a welterweight champion and Ryan is vying to become one in the upcoming Mario Barrios fight, to where if Ryan wins, they can do a unification, they can run it back. But I'll be honest that a rematch with Ryan and Devin doesn't actually have the big fight feel for me. If I'm honest about this crop of youngsters, nothing they do really gets me excited. Devin is boring, and that is established, and Ryan sucks. Ryan's not a good fighter. He's just popular on social media. He's been doing the rounds, palling around with Chrissy and Rock, a degenerate and an unfit mother who's popular among the younger crowd, the streaming crowd. He's been palling around with her, likely to raise awareness for his upcoming Mario Barrios fight, keep his name out there, and he's doing that. But unless the same crowd that takes in Chrissy and Rock and whatever she's doing is the same crowd that buys boxing matches, this is an exercise in futility. You don't raise awareness for the sake of raising awareness. You try to market yourself to people who buy fights. People who watch her don't buy shit. It's kind of like what you saw on YouTube over the years with PBC fighters. On YouTube, doing videos about PBC fighters might get you a lot of clicks, a lot of metrics, but in the real world, where it counts the most and you have to pay to play, those guys really ain't that popular. I mean, it's kind of like that with a Chrissy and Rock in the sense that, yeah, online, this is somebody who's popular, but the demo that knows her isn't a demo that spends money on anything. Boxing, least of all. So you can pal around with her as much as you like. Hopefully you get some ass out of it. Yeah, I heard she's single. But I don't get the sense that the people that watch her are then going to turn around and spend money on your fight. There's a lull in the American boxing scene, and it has everything to do with fighters like Ryan. There's no mystique to this kid, and nobody really views him as a gladiator like the boxers of old. They don't view Devin in that light either. None of these guys, really. Boxers in America used to be seen as titans, as Spartans. But I'd say in the last 2 decades, there's been a cultural shift to where the younger audience doesn't aspire to be gladiators and warriors. Well, they want to be streamers, they want to be influencers, and Ryan really is more influencer than pugilist. Now that makes him known, and that makes him popular, though exciting, revered, highly regarded, not so much. I don't think a Gervonta Davis rematch is feasible at this point, making the Devin Haney rematch the biggest fight that Ryan can have. Comparatively, he's got to hold up his end of the bargain, he's got to beat Mario Barrios, then hope they can have an amicable enough set of negotiations to do that second fight with Devin, which I think is easier said than done. But that's the mega fight for Ryan right now. That's the one that's got some backstory, some traction. We'll see if they put it together, but like I said, I'm not excited about anything involving Ryan, Rolly, Devin. None of this crop of youngsters. None of these young guys. They're all flat soda. On so many windowsills at a Christmas party. These kids are not exciting. Men's junior middleweight news is Tim Tszyu ready for another world title shot? He thinks so. Tszyu wants another shot at a world title. The Aussie-born former junior middleweight champion lost his chance at becoming a 2-time title holder when he was stopped by Sebastian Fundora on July 19th in Las Vegas. He bounced back nicely recently, beating Anthony Velasquez by wide decision earlier this week in Sydney. Confidence restored, Tszyu, 26-3 with 18 KOs, is looking to regain championship status. Though perhaps barking up the wrong tree. Give me Xander Zayas, Tszyu said during the post-fight presser. I just beat one Puerto Rican, let's go for the main Puerto Rican. Zayas, 22-0 with 13 KOs, might have heard Tszyu's call-out, but he has bigger fish to fry. The ring's number 5 junior middleweight and WBO champion has a fight lined up against the boss Baru, who holds the WBA strap set for January 31st in San Juan, Puerto Rico, the same day as Stevenson versus Lopez. Thus, Tszyu will have to play the waiting game, but he doesn't want to stay out of the ring for too long, nor should he. He's breaking in a new trainer, experimenting with a new style. He needs more rounds with that style. I want to remain active, Tszyu said. I just hate being out of the ring. Inactivity hasn't been a problem for the former WBO champion since 2023. He's had 8 fights, although his recent form hasn't been the best, going just 2-3 in his last 5. He believes he's getting back on track. In addition to chasing another title reign, Tszyu wants the thrill of competing against the best. I worked so hard, and I'm happy with the win, he said, but I'm not satisfied. I want to get back in there with the big boys. There he goes, rushing again. I think that's what led to his downfall. Forcing things that didn't need to be forced instead of letting things happen organically. His newfound style and more measured approach under the watchful eye of Pedro Diaz is intended to make Tim Tszyu more of a thinker and more of a boxer, which Xander Zayas, if you know him, already is. I don't think Tim can beat Xander with this new style. He would essentially be trying to beat Xander at his own game, where Tim is attempting to become more cerebral and more focused on the X's and O's. That's who Xander has already been throughout, so you're not going to beat him with that style. Want me to be honest? I don't even think Timmy should stay at 154. You've already been there and done that with Sebastian 2 times. You got beaten half to death by Bakram. You try your hand at Xander, he's gonna beat you too. What I think Tim should do is move up to 160. You will notice that 2 of the 3 reigning champions at that weight are both guys who moved up from 154. The other is set to be stripped of his 2 alphabet titles, creating an area of opportunity for a Tim Tszyu to maybe become a 2-weight world champion. There's no one so dominant and no one so fearsome at 160 that Tim shouldn't go up there right now and get in line to fight for one of those belts. In doing so, you get a head start on the guys that are still at 154 by beating them to 160. You effectively incentivize yourself as an opponent down the line if you can pick up a world title if you become a two-weight world champion and you get more time in with Pedro Diaz to break in that new style and that new trainer. My diagnosis: I don't even think Tim should stay at 154. Forget about Xander and forget about those belts that are there. Move up to a new weight. Go to 160. Sort of the way it's always been with the middleweight division, often characterized as one of the glamour weights. When you really pay attention, it's been a pit stop for smaller fighters that are moving up. And things really don't get exciting at 160 until that happens. When Gennady Golovkin was starting his dominant run, nobody really paid attention to him or that weight class until Miguel Cotto moved up, then Canelo Alvarez, then things got exciting. Go back even further to when Harvin Magler was running things. It didn't really get exciting until Roberto Duran moved up, Tommy Hearns, and subsequently Sugar Ray Leonard, and those were the glory days of the middleweight division. That really is just a pit stop for smaller fighters that are moving up. The same thing can happen now in today's middleweight division that has been as dead as a doorknob. Ever since Canelo Alvarez moved up and Gennady Golovkin moved on and subsequently retired, the middleweight division doesn't generate anywhere near the interest that it used to, but it could, starting with Timmy. Timmy would immediately be one of the most recognizable fighters, if not the most recognizable fighter at that weight as soon as he gets there, and if he can pick up a title, that's even better. It would go a long way in restoring faith in Tim Tszyu's ability to win fights, because one win over Velasquez ain't gonna cut it. Progression is a factor as well. All those guys you see at 154 right now, Xander Zayas, Virgil Ortiz, Boots Ennis, you know that eventually they're gonna end up at 160? Tim can beat them to the punch. Underneath it all, that's what I really think he should do. Abandon ship at 154, move up to 160, start fresh. See what he does? He's always had a penchant for putting the cart before the horse and rushing things needlessly. Now that you've got a new style and a more measured approach, that's how you need to approach everything. You need to think it through. The big fights will come, but you have to be patient. If you are, you could successfully become a two-weight world champion. And that doesn't just apply to Timmy, that also applies to another former champion in Israel Madrimov. According to Matchroom Boxing CEO Frank Smith, he's confirmed that former WBA junior middleweight world champion Israel Madrimov is set to return on the Murataya vs. Cruz undercard next month on the 24th. That this news is coming to us by way of Frank Smith and Matchroom means that Israel Madrimov is still with them. Otherwise, why would Frank Smith still be fielding questions about him? Israel is coming off of two back-to-back losses to Terence Crawford and subsequently Virgil Ortiz in February of this year. He loses that fight to Virgil and he sat out the rest of it, even though there was plenty of time to come back. I believe he had a medical procedure of some kind, needed rehabilitation. Now, if you're Israel Madrimov, you have to be realistic about who and what you are to boxing and this division. You're not going to get a fight with a Sebastian Fundora. You're not going to get a fight with a Xander Zayas. You've already been there and done that with Virgil. Move up. For the same reason I just said that Tim Tszyu should move up, Israel Madrimov should move up. It's looking more and more likely that Yanibek Alimkhanalai will be stripped of his 2 alphabet titles. Tim Tszyu can move up and pick up one, and Israel Madrimov can move up and pick up the other. Remember that 2 of the 3 reigning champions at 160 are both guys that came from 154. If they can pick up belts at today's middleweight division, so can Israel. Israel is a world-class boxer, well-schooled amateur, and a former champion, but not a guy who's worth a lot of money. A bit of a hot potato, a guy who you know he's gonna give you a hard fight. He's gonna give you a hard night. Nobody's just gonna fight this guy for the sake of fighting this guy, so he has to pick up an alphabet title. To incentivize himself as an opponent for the bigger names at or around these weights, he needs a belt. You stay at 154, that's a dead end. You're gonna get ignored by a lot of people, but if you move up to 160, you start fighting in eliminators now to line yourself up for one of those titles. One of those belts they're gonna strip Yanni back of. You're back in the game, you're back in business. Israel Madrimov is nothing without a title. He's the kind of guy that would regularly get passed over if he doesn't incentivize himself somehow. And this is where conventional and traditional means service some fighters. That process of climbing up the ranks and becoming a mandatory, fighting for a belt, it's still useful in some quarters. It also helps that the two belts that are about to become available, the IBF and the WBO, these are organizations that order mandatories promptly. They don't just let it drag on like the WBA or the WBC. These alphabet organizations are a lot more Johnny on the spot, to where if you still have Matchroom behind you, go the IBF route. They take their mandatories very seriously, as does the WBO without the rehydration cap. I advise that Israel move up now, campaign as a middleweight, and get a head start on all those guys at 154. Does he have the physical dimensions to campaign as a middleweight, which is a separate matter? Physically, is he adept to the task? Tell you what, Israel really wasn't the biggest of junior middleweights. He's a short, stocky, stumpy fighter, though solid. But like what I said about Tim, there's nobody at middleweight so dominant and so dangerous right now that Israel should hold off on moving up there. The most dangerous guy was Yanni Beck, but he's about to get stripped. And when he does, he's likely going to leave the division. So Israel wouldn't have a whole lot to worry about at 160. It's where I think he should go, representing a flock of standout amateurs that hailed from out of Uzbekistan, who had a lot of success in the amateurs, but sort of got lost in the sauce in the pros. To see, there was a whole crop of these guys at one point. MJ Akhmadaliev, Shakram Giyasov, Israel Madrimov, Bakadir Jalalov, a lot of consonants, a lot of Ks, a lot of Vs, a lot of Uzbeks who have yet to make a splash in the paid ranks. This is Israel's opportunity to register as a blip on the radar. Forget about beating that dead horse at 154. That's a dead end. Go to 160, start anew.